Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing. Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. Race number 9 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday is for Florida-bred fillies and mares. It's the Sunshine Fillies and Mares Turf. Let's take a look at this field. We're going 1 mile on the Gulfstream Park lawn. I thought this was a wide open race, Mike. I think these horses are still trying to figure out if they're stakes horses on the turf or not. Mona Stella on the outside is interesting, stretching back out in distance, removing blinkers. I wonder if they used that last synthetic sprint as a prep.
Yeah, they probably did. I mean, in some ways, Mona Stella, it could be the horse to beat in here, Dan, because as you've already pointed out, it's kind of a wide open race. There are a bunch of horses, especially towards the inside, who don't even really have any turf form. So there's some real wild cards in here. It feels like, in a lot of ways, the strength of the race is towards the outside.
We'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector, and I agree with Timeform US. This pace should be fair. And I do think the 4 Sweet Danny girl, stretching out slightly, trying turf for the first time, she should be fresh. We haven't seen her since May. She can be close to the pace. And Crystal Coast, she can do it either way, on the lead or just off. The number 1 in here is Sonar, and for a mare that's so well bred for turf, she's a half-sister to a Grade 3 winner on the grass. It took the connections long enough to try the surface, 20 races to be exact. She ran okay at a giant price last time out in a high-level allowance race. You could argue that race might actually be a bit tougher than this Florida-bred field. She was 4 wide after a half mile, didn't finish with much verve.
Yeah, she didn't. I mean, it doesn't feel like she took a step forward on the turf last time, Dan. You mentioned that she has a pretty good pedigree on the bottom, but she's by Brethren. I guess that's probably why they haven't tried turf with her. He's not much of a turf sire, and I just didn't really feel like she improved enough to be interested in her in here.
I usually don't love trying horses that are trying new surfaces in high-level stakes races like this, but it appears that Todd Pletcher's found a great spot for the 2 of Vow to make her turf debut. She's by Arrogate, and the dam was all turf. Peace Preserver was a graded stakes winner on the lawn. Vow now gets a chance to go 2 turns on turf, and I have a feeling this is what she wants to do.
I kind of agree with you. I'm with you in that I didn't, necessarily want to take a short price on her in this race. And I do feel like she's going to take money in this race. And more than anything else, that's what sort of kept me away. But she's shown some talent on the main track. This is the surface that she's bred for, at least on the bottom of her pedigree. I couldn't leave her totally out, and I just didn't want to pick her in here.
The 3 is Don't Get Cozy. She earned a stakes placing against restricted Florida-bred company 3 starts back. She hasn't raced on turf in about 3.5 years, so you have to question the surface.
Yeah, of course. I mean, she's one of several horses in here who it feels like their connections are just taking a shot in this race to see what happens. She doesn't have any turf form to speak of. Her dirt form is actually fine, and she's going to be off the pace in this race, so maybe things will heat up for her, but I still thought she was pretty hard to make a case for.
I thought the 4 Sweet Danny girl showed a lot of potential earlier in her career on the main track. I liked her win in the Myrtlewood Stakes, second time out as a 2-year-old at Keeneland. Didn't mind her 3rd place effort right behind the good Mare at Churchill Downs in her 3rd lifetime start. But we haven't seen her now since being beaten by Mare in May, and this is kind of an interesting spot for her first race around 2 turns, a turf race off the long layoff. Not as much turf pedigree as the Pletcher train runner, although this is the family of In Summation, a millionaire sprinter that won on all 3 surfaces.
Yeah, there's a little pedigree here, but not a ton of it. And she's just a horse, with the layoff thrown in and some stakes running lines. It feels like she can't be a great price in here. If I was going to take a horse who was, switching to the surface for the first time, I would take the 2 over the 4.
Extravagant Rosie's the number 5, and she's going to be making her 3rd start since a summer vacation. Perhaps you could argue that she's slowly racing herself back into form. She ran at Tampa Bay Downs most recently, a first-level open allowance, a race that didn't have a ton of pace, but she just didn't really fire with the closer's trip. She's got to do better.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see the race that she's run that makes her really competitive in here. As far as her recent form goes, well behind Mona Stella last March, well behind Looking Like a Queen in her start after that, well behind Crystal Coast on synthetic 2 starts back. I just thought she was in over her head.
Crystal Coast ran very well in her most recent start. That was this race on December the 9th, a first level allowance restricted to Florida breds. I thought she worked out a really good trip, tracking 3 wide. She makes her bid at the right time, turning for home, and she's on her way. She ran well in this race. Her tactical speed puts her in good stead. And while it is a step up in class on paper, she fits with these horses.
Yeah, she fits with them, especially based on her last couple of races, which kind of feel like the 2 best races she's ever run, Dan. The race 2 back was on the all weather. She got very unlucky not to win there. The trip did not work out for her, and she got going a little bit too late and just missed. Came back last time, and you just saw her win very easily in that race. Is it a step up in class? Yeah, it is. But it feels like in this kind of race, especially, trips could go a long way, and it feels like she's going to get another good one in here.
I think you could argue that the class of the race is the number 7 Sugar Fix, an 11-time winner who won the Claiming Crown Tiara at Gulfstream Park back at the end of 2021. She was able to win over that tough course at Kentucky Downs 4 starts back, and it was in tough at Santa Anita and Del Mar in her 2 subsequent outings. Last time out at Golden Gate, big excuse. They ran her on the synth. She is an 11-time winner on the turf. She has tactical speed. She gets back to her best surface.
Yeah, all those things are true. And she was actually in a pretty tough race last time, too, where she just totally gave it up through the stretch. Her prior 2 turf races, though, you're right there, just in against some way better horses and actually ran well in those races. I think this was a pretty smart claim for these connections out of that win at Kentucky Downs.
The number 8 is Looking Like a Queen. It was beaten in a condition claiming race last time out on New Year's Eve. Let's watch that race right now. She was kind of rated back early by Jose Ortiz. The pace was there. She saved ground. Everything was going right from a trip standpoint till right about mid-stretch when she tries to split horses and she's going to have to steady in between. She recovers a little bit to run third. I'm not sure if she wins if she gets the cleanest trip, but she showed some life in this race, and I think she's a little bit more tactical than she appears on paper.
Yeah, I think she is too, which makes it's kind of surprising, Dan, in her last 2 starts that she's been, a little bit further away from the pace. And, I don't know if that's by design or not, but it certainly hasn't played to her advantage. And either the loss to Crystal Coast 2 back or that loss last time. It feels like she can be closer, but the question is, are they going to ride her that way this time? Because they've been taking her back and it hasn't worked out.
Mona Stella completes the field in number 9. This is a mare with a lot of upside potential. She's already stakes placed against Florida breds on turf. She returned last time out off a lengthy layoff going 5/8 on the Tapeta surface. She broke badly. She was in between horses and she stayed on evenly in the stretch. I thought it was a perfect prep. I expect them to try to get forward under Jose Ortiz.
I do too. I'm just looking at that last one as a prep as well. The race 2 starts back at Belmont where they went 7. Man, that was a race that totally fell apart. She was close to the pace, got to the lead, but they just had to work too hard early in that race, and all the closers came and took over late. She actually ran way better than it looks. I kind of felt like she was the horse to beat, Dan, and I want to use her, but I also felt like she could be the favorite.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Sunshine Filly and Mare Turf at Gulfstream on Saturday. Sugarfix has a lot going for her. She's loves this surface. She's run well at the distance, and she's been taking on arguably better horses in her last 4, 5, 6 starts.
Yeah, she's just really logical in this race. I have her on top. I put the Pletcher horse second, who's trying turf for the first time, just based on her pedigree. If she takes a lot of money, Dan, I just don't really want to use that horse.
I won't be surprised if the Pletcher horse wins just simply because it's Todd at Gulfstream. She's lightly raced and she's bred for the surface. Like you, I don't really want to take a short price on her. Other than her, I think Looking Like a Queen at a price is worth some consideration off the tough trip last time out. This is a tougher spot. 7269 for Mike, 8961 for me. Sunshine Filly and Mare Turf at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Good luck.